All right, well, it looks like it's leveling out. So I do want to welcome everyone to our July Coffee and Conversation. I'm Deborah Hooper, the COO for the Greensburg Chamber. Brent is on the road today, and so I'll be your host for the first half of Coffee and Conversation, and then Tracy's going to be your host for the second half when we get into the networking portion. You know, we absolutely do miss being at our host location this year, the Carolina Theater, and they know that we are here for them and thinking about them every day, as well as our catering sponsor, Deep Roots Market. And in fact, we do have a digital drawing. If you have not had an opportunity, please text the word PERK in all caps, P-E-R-K, to 55678 and fill out the registration. We're going to put the instructions in the chat room. And the prize is a $25 gift certificate from Deep Roots. And I know that all of us could enjoy that. So Holly, thanks so much for putting that in the chat room for everyone. I do want to thank our Circle of Champions. You see it on the screen. If you have joined us by Zoom at the platinum level, obviously, we have a Legacy Federal Credit Union, Cone Health, Lincoln Financial Group, Truliant Federal Credit Union, and VF Corporation. At the gold level, we have Novant Health, and the silver level, Global Brands Group, Kelly Office Solutions, Ralph Lauren, Staunton Capital, and Wake Forest Baptist Health. You know, we thank our Circle of Champions supporters for all the support they provide for our programming to be offered to you and the rest of our membership throughout the year. So we're very, very grateful. I'm so excited about today's topic. And one reason is it's very personal to me, right? How important having an education is to having, you know, opportunities in life. And, you know, I have my own personal story about that. I am not going to share it today, but I do have the privilege and honor of working with David Bolton, who's going to share the 60 by 30 information with us today. And I'm enjoying the journey that we are on. And I want to share a little bit about Dave before he gets started talking about 60 by 30. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in wildlife biology from Clemson University and began his career while studying the timber wolf population in northwestern Minnesota. And Dave, I understand that that was to learn their habits before potential removal from the Endangered Species Act. So I'm sure that was an interesting part of your career path. I will jump forward and tell you that he has worked in the corporate sector before he began working with Foothills Family Resources in Greenville County, South Carolina, serving as their executive director. And during that time of working with them, he not only increased their fundraising and emergency services significantly, but he also instituted a workforce development program aimed at moving people from crisis to self-sufficiency. So Dave has got experience with workforce development that we're very excited to have him bring to our community. He is currently the Director of Workforce Initiatives at the Community Foundation of Greater Greensboro, where he's leading the effort to have 60% of our working population with some level of post-secondary education by the year 2030. So Dave, welcome. And we are very excited that you're going to tell us more about what we call 60 by 30, right?
Yes.
So take it from here.
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, everyone seeing that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Maybe having technical, hold on one second. You're not seeing the whole thing now, are you?
No, it went away.
Okay.
It's back.
Let me take a different way of approaching this. I'm going to stop sharing for a second.
And while Dave's doing that, I just want to say I hope everyone's taking some time for yourself to relax with family and friends this summer.
Okay, how's that?
Great, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, I want to thank everyone for inviting me. Since you can see me, I'm going to stay seated, but sometimes it's hard for me to present seated, but we'll get through it. I want to thank you all for joining to learn about this, and I'd like to thank the Chamber for inviting me. This is our first time really coming out in public talking to introduce the community to what this initiative is, so we're really excited to be here. As Deborah said, the 60 by 30 initiative's focus at a very sort of basic level is by the year 2030, we want to help to have 60% of our population with some level of post-secondary success. And so by some level, we mean credential and up. So this isn't just bachelor's, master's. This is credentials, associates, bachelor's, and probably master's as well. I will say I'm going to, we're at 46% now. So that's about a 14 percentage point jump, which is really significant. We understand the challenge that's ahead of us, and we're excited to start tackling it. Where I'm going to start with, really the goal of this presentation is to help you understand where we are. We're sort of in that research and development phase, and where we want to go, right? What is the purpose of this phase? What is the outcomes we want from it? And what is the long-term implications of what we're doing now? But I think it's important before we do that I show a few slides of just where we are in education, exactly where we are in the community, who are we educating, and how are we educating. And let me just give a plug, I do this all the time, to the talent alignment strategy, which the Chamber was pivotal in getting done. As you know from my introduction, I moved up here from South Carolina, and so having that report has been pivotal. So the next 4 or 5 slides will be coming from that report. If you haven't dug into it and this is interesting to you, I'm going to be at a 30,000 foot, view of this. Certainly you can go in and you can dig in much deeper into the data. So I would suggest that if this is interesting. Okay, so let's just start with what our current graduate output is. And this is on an annual basis, the great institutions we have in this county, what are they graduating? And this is what they're graduating. And I think that the thing that stands out to me here is that we're about 40% certificates and associates. And so let me be clear that through this initiative, all of these are going to go up. There's no question. Certainly certificate, associates, bachelors, they're going to go up. But what is that right ratio? Right, of sort of that certificate associate level and then that 4-year level. At 40%, are we providing the necessary workforce that are not just current industry needs, but that are future industry needs? So sort of how we move those up and down will be a big part of what we're doing here. What do we educate in? Our top degree clusters at all levels are healthcare, business, liberal arts, science, and engineering education. But I think it's interesting to look at what the fastest growing clusters are. And those are in transportation, machine repair, personal services, construction, legal. Now, to be clear, all 10 of these have certificate and associate level trainings. But when you look at things like transportation and machine repair and construction, there's a lot. Now, certainly there's bachelor's level in there as well. But there's a lot of certification needs within clusters like that. So, and then what is our 10-year projected in demand? So I just chose 4. Again, if you look at the report, there's more than that. But what does the report tell us is in demand in the next 10 years? That's medical, construction, production, and logistics and transportation. So what are the jobs associated with those? In medical, we're talking about nursing aides and vocational nurses, phlebotomists, transcriptionists. Construction managers, air conditioning, heating, plumbers and electricians. Production, and this, since I see aircraft, another big part of this initiative is bringing in new industry. It's not just satisfying the industry we have. And certainly aerospace is one of those that's emerging in this county. And so you can see the top two, aircraft structures assemblers and aerospace engineers, are in demand according to the report. Machinists, welders, engine assembly. Finally, logistics and transportation, and it's what you think it would be. Truck driver, heavy equipment repair, tower operators, miscellaneous material workers. So that's where we are, right? That's how we're educating, and that's where we think we're going to need to be educating in the future, but we're gonna dig a little bit deeper into that. Okay, so that was the data dump, if you will, just so you could see exactly where we are. Moving forward, I want to talk to you about the initiative and really how we're doing the work and how we plan on doing the work and what we hope the outcomes are. So we're in the learn phase, and so let me be clear. I come to this with opinions, Deborah comes to this with opinions, Walker does. Everyone working in this comes to this with opinions. And we could create a plan right now and say, here's what we're gonna do. And the truth is, amongst all of us, it would be pretty good, but it would probably be 50% wrong. So we wanna take that step, be thoughtful, learn what's needed, and create the plan based on that. So with this slide, I'm just gonna give you an overview of what we're doing based on the committees that we have. The committees are really the workforce engines for this work. And so when you look at the industry committee, of course, obviously, the industry committee is looking at what does industry need over the next 10 years? What are their workforce needs? But it goes beyond that, because as you'll hear me say talk about later, our focus here is creating a system, and the industry needs to be part of that system. Not on the outside of it looking in that we're just helping supply workers to, but they need to be an integral part. So that industry committee is focused on creating relationships with the chamber has a ton already, so we're ahead of the game for sure. But creating those relationships so that they understand they have ownership in this and they can help us guide it to be something that works for them. The career committee, and honestly, we're actually thinking about combining these two right now, but the career committee will learn from the industry committee, and then they'll say, okay, here's what industry needs. Here's the education credentials through master's that's needed for those things. And then do sort of a census of all the great educational institutions we have to see what's offered right now and what it costs. And is there a gap, right? If there's something that's needed that maybe we don't offer, or maybe the supply isn't going to meet the demand, that we figure out a way of working with the educational institutions to up that supply. Finance committee is what you think. They're going to learn from the industry and career what's needed, what it's going to cost, and develop a 10-year plan. But it's important to understand we're not just talking about education here. I'm going to talk a lot about access in this presentation. And so what does it cost for everyone in our community to have access to education, which is a whole different thing altogether. Let me tell you that if this was 50 by 30, I wouldn't have taken this job, right? It was that number 60 that drew me in. And the reason for that is to get to 60%, you can't start with middle class, right? To get to 60%, we need to work with the entire population. It's a huge number. It's about 40,000 people over the next 10 years getting educated. And so there's no easy way out here. We have to work with people that have been living in generational poverty and help them get through their barriers so they can get educated. And, things like transportation, healthcare, childcare, housing, these are all important things. And look, these things are beasts. They really are. Everywhere I've ever worked, those have been the things. And I'm not telling you we're going to raise enough money to fix that. I'm truly not. But it needs to be part of our plan. And then finally, the community committee. And I'm going to spend a little time explaining to you what the community committee is going to do and what their charge is. And so we have a landlocked boat here. And I would ask you to consider the metaphor of a rising tide lifts all ships. And I'm going to beat this metaphor into the ground during this slide, but I promise you it will be over during that. So I won't keep coming back to it. But a rising tide lifts all ships. Is that true here? You know, we don't know how this ship got beyond the tidal zone, but it is. Clearly, this ship hasn't been at sea in a long time. Maybe it was a hurricane that brought this ship beyond the point of the typical tide. Maybe we're in a hurricane now, right? Maybe we're in a moment now that we can say, okay, times are hard. Let's fix some injustices that have been happening for millennia. That might be the moment we're at now. But what we're not doing is using the rising tide lifts all ships metaphor in this initiative. It won't work. We won't get deep enough. And so kind of like I said, it was a hurricane, right? We need to ask the question of why. Why are there these ships that are so far inland? What caused that? Is it their fault? I mean, as Deborah told you, I've been doing this work for a while. I've been working with generational poverty for a while, inner city and Appalachia. And what I can tell you is, for the most part, these are not lazy people, right? These are not people that don't want to work. These are people working 2 and 3 jobs just to be in that first quintile, which I'm going to talk about the income quintiles. So it's not laziness. So let's just get past that. So what is it? So this comes from the Pew Charitable Trust. This is from 2012. I'm going to show you a more recent one. But what this is children born into different quintiles, right? So their parents make a certain amount of money each year. What is their chance of moving between the quintiles or up the economic ladder or down? Just to give you a frame of reference, what these stand for, that bottom quintile is a mean annual salary of about $13,000 a year. The second one is about 37, so I'm giving you a mean, so you can assume there's some below and above. The min quintile is $65,000 a year. That fourth one is about $100,000 a year. And the top quintile is $233,000 a year mean salary. And so I think some things stand out here pretty quick, and that is, if you're born into the bottom quintile, there's a 43% chance, just because of where you're born, that you're going to make about $13,000 a year. And there's a 70% chance that you're going to make no more than about $35,000, $36,000 a year. Whereas if we look at that top quintile, if you're born into extreme wealth, there's a 40% chance you're going to stay right where you are just because you were born there. There's a 63% chance that you're going to make it. So when you're born into wealth, there's a 63% chance you're going to make at least $100,000 a year. And so in this next slide, it's a little more recent. This comes from the Millikan Institute, 2015. To be transparent, this was the best graphic I can find for something more recent. I looked at the recent numbers, and they're just about the same now. And you'll see it's improved a little bit, right? Not a ton, but there's been improvement. It's also worth noting that in 2015, we were 5 years into an economic boom. And that now we're 10 years, right? Or at least in 2019, we were about 10 years into an economic boom. So there was improvement, but there wasn't a lot. And are we satisfied that even in the best of times, a baby has a 35% chance of making only $17,000 a year if they were born into it, and only about 60% chance of making $37,000 a year just because they were born into it. And so where this leads me to sort of that rising tides metaphor and why some of these ships are so far inland is inherited wealth, but not just inherited wealth. Right? We're going to talk about that, but inherited poverty, because we readily accept one of these, that there's inherited wealth. We seem to have a harder time accepting inherited poverty. So I want you to consider a child born into the top quintile. we know that 60% of the wealth in this country is inherited, and we know that a significant portion of wealth is at the top 1-2%. We know that. So it stands to reason that in that top quintile, much of that money is inherited. But it's not just the inheritance of money, right? It's everything that comes with your parents having money. So do you get a better education typically if you're there? Yeah, you do. Do you get better tutoring? Do you have SAT prep? These are all things people born into wealth just get. That doesn't happen on the other side. Let me be clear about one thing. I'm not saying parents that have extreme wealth shouldn't be spending it on their children to make sure their life is good. Of course they should. But if we can accept that there's this inherited wealth, let's accept that there's inherited poverty, right? And that everything I said about that top quintile, the opposite is usually, right? I'm not painting a broad stroke, but I can tell you from my experience, there are very few people living in extreme poverty that get their kids SAT prep. It just doesn't happen. Not to mention the influence parents have. But their schools aren't as good. I've worked in both. I've worked in a school in Clemson, and I've worked in a school in West Philadelphia before West Philadelphia was gentrified. Believe me, there's a huge difference between those two worlds. They don't get the training, they don't get the tutoring, their life experience is different. You know, if their parents just aren't working, it's usually a pretty unhealthy situation. And if their parents are working, it's usually at least 2 jobs and they don't get the same parental influence. So, and then there's one more slide that's sort of similar. This one's kind of stunning to me, though I suppose not surprising. And that is, I can't read the top, but it's the chances of a person meeting middle wage by middle age. And so demographically, you can see the disparities here. African Americans, there's only a 28% chance that they reach middle wage by middle age. It's actually harder to say than you would think. Women are at 52%. Men are at 58%. White people in general at 63, which really means white men are above 63. And then finally, if you're born into that top quintile, the chances of you at least reaching middle wage is 71%. Your chance of making less than, say, $60,000 a year is less than 30%. So we need to consider these things when we're doing this work. And why is that? Or how are we going to approach it? And so this is where we pivot from the rising tides to the curb cut. And some of you may have heard of the curb cut, but I'll go through it. And so I think the first curb cut ever was actually in the Midwest somewhere. But in 1970 in Berkeley, California, people living in disabilities were lobbying their representatives to put curb cuts or ramps to increase their social mobility, of course. And it was harder than you would think. And there was some social, defiance, and they built their own ramps. And eventually they started doing it, and they put these curb cuts everywhere. And then other states started doing it. And then the Disability Act happened, and now they're mandatory everywhere. But an interesting thing happened. We learned an interesting thing from that, and that is, of course, a person that has to be in a wheelchair, their mobility and their quality of life is going to be improved if they can get over curbs really easy. I mean, think about the world that opens up to people. But what they found is it improved life for everyone. Parents pushing strollers use the curb cuts. Runners use the curb cuts. Delivery people pushing heavy carts use the curb cuts. In fact, in Florida, they did a study in the shopping mall, and they found that 90% of what they called unencumbered pedestrians used the curb cut. And so by doing what was right for those that were most vulnerable, they helped everybody across the spectrum. And that is that's the way we're going to look at this. Because if we can help someone that's been living in generational poverty overcome the barriers in life to access education and then a good job, it stands to reason that a person living in middle class who also, look, I grew up in middle class. it's not that everything was super easy living in middle class, but a person in living in a middle class household will also be able to access those same services. So we're going to focus on the community committee in particular is going to focus on creating relationships with communities and people in them, defining what community is community zip code, which basically means demographics. Maybe that's what we decide. Is it based on income? And then all of a sudden, you know, especially now in the times we're in that we have to do this through Zoom, maybe we could start including, you know, communities from different parts of the county that don't usually interact. That might be good during this time, but we'll see, right? That's something the committee will decide. Okay, so what is it we are doing, right? What are we building? And at the end of the day, our focus is to build a system. Now, I don't know what that system's called. I don't know what that, I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew what that system looked like. It seems unlikely that it's a big building in Greensboro that's serving the whole county. That doesn't get past the access, of course. It's certainly possible that it's this web of partners that funded partners that are doing the work. But what I know it is there are 4 parts that have to come together. And that's industry, that's community, that's education, and that is, there's one more. Industry, community, education, government, sorry. I always miss that 4th one. And so those 4 things need to come together, right? We need to be working step in step. We all need to be on the same page. There needs to be an input into that system, whether it's 10 doors throughout the county or 100 doors throughout the county. There needs to be a way to access that system. And then once you access that system, keep in mind, if we're doing, you all have probably seen career pathways, ours are going to be a little different. That first picture on the left is going to be a house, not an educational institute, because we need to figure out how to help people move through the barriers that are between their house and those educational institutions. And then on the right, it doesn't end with the job, because we want people to make a livable wage, but that isn't likely to happen on the first job, especially if you're talking something like quick jobs or something like that. So it's helping people move from getting the job to making a livable wage, which is honestly a livable wage in most metrics is a pretty high standard. So this system has the entranceway that's accessible by all communities, and then people are coached, right? First on how do we overcome barriers? Next on how do we access education now? Next on, okay, how do we get you a job? And then next on, okay, now you have a job. How do you work through that system and make a livable wage? So that's the system that we're building. And it's really going to take everyone. This isn't I tried to do this work, it's just a nonprofit. And it's not something really that one, individual nonprofit can tackle. At least that's been my experience. We need all these groups at the table to help us. And then finally, this is an economic development model. There's no way around that, and that's a good thing. And if you consider the sort of keystone habit idea, where if you focus on something and you do it really, really well, there are peripheral consequences to that are significant. So if we're focusing on that curb cut and how we make sure everyone has access to education, one of those peripheral consequences, according to a study by Andrew Broad we had done, is that it's a $1 billion economic, it's an additional $1 billion per year to the county. And so Walker, the president of the Community Foundation, I'm sure everyone knows that, his example, which I think is really good, is that we all know we just got a Publix distribution center. Well, if we can get to 60%, that's like having a Publix distribution center every single year added to the community. And then of course there's peripheral consequences, all that. That's the whole idea of this. It's not just educating people, it's truly lifting all ships, right? Maybe we have another hurricane coming and we're going to get all those ships that were never touched. I broke my promise to you. I brought that metaphor back. Sorry. But that's what we're doing. That's how, that's where we are. This is the work we're doing now, and that $1 billion is sort of the future goal.
Well, Dave, thank you so much. I'm going to ask if anyone has questions for Dave, please put them in the chat room. We would love for you to do that and for him to be able to take the time to answer any questions that you may have. And we welcome that. While we wait to see if we have questions there, Dave, I do want to thank you for especially the visuals and the metaphors that you use, because I think that those are so helpful, not only to create, a better understanding of some of the issues that we face and why we face them, but also it makes it more memorable. I know this, but that's especially true for those who may be like me, that when you have a visual, right, it just sticks with you and you get it better. So I appreciate those that you presented, and certainly some sobering data that you presented as well. I know that we have Larry Zarda, who is the president of Greensboro College, also on the Zoom call with us today, and Larry is one of the co-chairs for 60 by 30. We also have Walker Sanders, the CEO of the Community Foundation. So we do have one question. I'm going to tee that up. Let me just go back to it. So what is our current percentage of our workforce that has the necessary post-secondary credits, Dave?
It's an interesting question. My apologies if I didn't say that. We're at 46%. There's a key word in there, and that's necessary, right?
Right.
I'm not sure. I don't know if we know that number of how many people have an education that they can actually use, but my guess is it's a couple percentage points below that 46%.
Yeah, and I think Dave he's stressing the necessary post-secondary credits and education, if you will, because of what our industry needs are here, and making sure that we are aligned with those. We have another question from Laura Collins. Where can we find the report that you cited at the beginning of the presentation regarding our local data?
Why don't you take that, Deborah?
All right, so there is information at triadworks.com. That's where the Triad Talent Alignment Strategy research is. And there's a wealth of information there, but we can certainly put the link in the chat room and make sure that everybody's got that. We can also put a link to the report in the chat room as well, Laura, so great question. All right, Dave, can you say a little about how this fits in with the statewide efforts along these lines with My Future NC?
It's a good question from Tara. And the truth is we need for it to fit. And so My Future NC, the credentials, particularly in the beginning, the credentials that we're going to be looking at are going to have to jive with what the state's looking at. And the reason is because this is an economic development model, right? And so if we think based on what we call a credential, we're at 53%, but outside industry looks, and according to the state, we're at 49%, what's the point, right? And so we are working with them. Jenny Porn is the person there that we work with the closest. We hope that as we move forward with this and show that we're doing good work and showing results, that we can have some things added, maybe. I mean, we haven't seen yet what their list is. They're still putting that together. But maybe we can have enough leverage where we can have them add some of the things that employers, I could just tell you a story from my last job, and that is, I won't go through the whole thing, it's too long, but what we found out industry wanted was people who would show up and do good work, right? That's what they were lacking in manufacturing by me. And so that's what we trained people on. And over the course of 4 years, we only had one person fired. And what we found is, look, they only started making usually about $13 an hour. But if you were a good employee, by 6, 7 months, they were looking at making you some sort of supervisor. And if you lasted a couple years, you were in that $45,000 to $50,000 range. And this is with a credential this was just sort of a soft skills, forcing people to practice soft skills over the course of a couple months. And it worked really well. That's not a credential that we could use now. But maybe it will be in the future, and that could be provided at churches and nonprofits and anywhere that curriculum. But right now we are very, very much hand in hand with the state.
Okay, thank you for that. Cecilia Thompson, thank you so much for posting the triadtalent.com information in the chat room. This is where you can find the Triad Talent Alignment Strategy data. Cecilia was one of the leaders who led that effort with the steering committee a few years ago and did great work, and she is very involved in 60 by 30 as well. So Cecilia, thank you for your continued work in this area. This particular initiative aligns really well with the Chamber's Growth Strategic Plan, and there are several of us who are working in different ways with 60 by 30, so it's very exciting to be able to work alongside an incredible task force to get this work done. Let's see, North Carolina has seen a significant increase in linguistically different populations. What tactics are there, if any, to connect with those communities on this initiative, Dave?
That'll be the community committee's job, right? We need to find out where the access, how do we make those curb cuts? Certainly language is going to be one of those points. So again, I'm trying to be data driven here, so I'm not going to offer up how we might get past that. But certainly I expect we'll find that that's an issue that we need to address.
Okay. Dave, if there are others who have questions and they want to email you directly, could you share your email address and we'll put it in the chat room?
Sure. You want me to just say it? But
yes.
You can put, it's dbolton, BOLTON, at cfgg.org.
Okay. Dave, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing the information about this exciting initiative for our community. It is needed, and we could not be more committed to working alongside with you and the entire task force to make sure that this work gets done for our community, to create a sustainable system, to make sure, as you said, that all ships are lifted with the rising tide, and we will get this work done. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah.
All right, Tracy, I'm going to turn it over to you for the networking portion of Coffee and Conversation.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Dave. Wonderful topic this morning. We so appreciate having you. And we will move into the networking portion of the call. So as Deborah said, we so miss seeing everybody. So if you have the ability to turn on your camera, we would love to see your faces. It's a beautiful day in downtown, beautiful day in Greensboro. We miss you. We wish you were here with us. And in light of that, I'll also tell you about a few things that are coming up. We have had a lot of our events on hold for the last several months, and we're coming into the fall with a heavy event season. So there's been a few announcements that have come out in the last several days regarding events moving forward. And Ainsley's up there in the corner smiling because she's been working hard on a lot of planning, and you've probably seen a lot of emails referencing getting in touch with Ainsley as well. Our Small Business Awards for 2020 were scheduled to be held in April. They were postponed in order for us to make some plans and get that digital plan put together. We will be hosting the Small Business Awards on July the 30th. And Holly has put that link in the chat. Very excited to announce our winners and to celebrate small businesses, which have been crucial during this entire pandemic situation. So super excited to get back to normal a little bit with Small Business Awards. Those tickets are not on sale individually because this year it is a free event for individuals to view. So this will be a live stream situation. It will air across our multiple channels on YouTube and on our Facebook page, but everyone can watch that and celebrate those businesses. We do still have some sponsorships available. We are doing a digital program. So if you're a sponsor, you can actually click on your link in the program. It will take you to a page and a landing page for you, so that'll be fantastic. Ainsley's also mentioned that we'll celebrate the winners from the Nussbaum Center for Entrepreneurship, and the Mayor's Committee will also be celebrated then. We also sent out the announcement this week for State of Our Community. So the big event in the fall, always sell out, always have limited seating. Wonderful event. State of Our Community will also be digital. We are working on multiple topics, a true State of Our Community situation, looking at multiple issues. So look out for that email, look out for the opportunity. There's the link to register for State of Our Community, August 26th. And then we also have the Impact Leadership Conference in October, and that information is out as well. Announced another speaker for that. So that is moving quite right along. And then, of course, check out our events calendar on the website, because every single day you can get engaged in some way with us, whether it be Action Greensboro and their Live 45 events, whether it be some of the events we have going on at launch. There's something every day for everybody. So with all of that said, that's the announcements. We'll move on to the portion for you guys to share a little bit about your business. So like we do with every coffee and conversation, if you would like to share a little bit about who you are and where you work, keep it to maybe about a minute, or actually about 30 seconds. We've got a big group, but you can raise your hand. If you do not know how to do that, that's down near the bottom. You can do a hand raise, or drop something in the chat that you would like to speak, and Ainsley and I will be on the lookout, and we would love to hear from you. Who wants to go first? Jump in it.
I will.
I figured I would jump in.
I'm going to volunteer John Bennett.
Figured I'd jump in the pool first. The company I have is a company called Fractional Sales and Management Associates, and we are an outsourced sales and management company. We work with our clients acting in various capacities, such as a sales manager, or one of my clients is using us as their chief operating officer. And we basically take the years of experience that I've got working domestically and internationally and sharing that experience with our clients. You know, we work anywhere from an hour per week with that client to 2 days per week with a client. One thing I did during the pandemic, which is still upon us, of course, right now, is offering 2 hours of free consulting of where do we go from here? What are the issues we're dealing with, and how can we adjust our companies to adjust for the different change in the paradigm moving forward. If you would like to reach out to me, obviously you see Fasama and my board behind me, fasama.com. Reach out to me and I'll be glad to talk with you. That 2 hours is no obligation at all, just to help everybody out.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Elaine has her hand raised. Elaine with Delta Dental. Hi.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for facilitating this in our virtual world. I'm with Delta Dental of North Carolina. We're a not-for-profit dental insurance carrier. Our mission is to improve the oral health of the communities we serve. And certainly, this is a challenging time and a time of great need, as you know, for access to dental services. So we do that. We have the largest network of dentists in the state and the nation, and then also through our philanthropy. So as a not-for-profit, a portion of our residuals go back to work here in North Carolina and our communities across the state to improve oral health and increase access to those services. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you all at State of Our Community.
Thank you, Elaine, and thank you so much for all the support you guys give us. We appreciate that. Sarah, my friend Sarah, over in front of the DGI sign. I muted you, sorry.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for hosting this. This is great to connect with everyone. Just had 2 updates from downtown Greensboro. You know, we're moving right along with our Rebuilding Greensboro grant effort. We're distributing funds in the amount of $100,000 to $3,000 to help businesses repair from, window repairs, repainting, protective measures, all from the events that happen on May 30th and 31st. So the link is live, the application is live. Go on to our website at Downtown Greensboro and apply for that. And then also, grants are wonderful, but we still need to support and visit our downtown shops, either in person or online. So we've got our Passport app that you can download, and you can, do that virtually, whether you're doing takeout or online shopping, but check out our Passport app and you can win prizes, and please encourage folks to do that. Our local businesses, need all our support. So just trying to keep coming up with creative ways to help. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Sarah. And I will say, if you have kids and they've been cooped up in the house, get that Passport app, throw a mask on them, and bring them downtown. I know my kids have been asking when that's coming because they love to do the Passport app. It's a lot of fun.
And the Dan's Candy Shop, Gate City Candy, has been a huge hit in our house. So.
Definitely. Tara, I see you've got your hand up.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Tara Sandercock with the Community Foundation of Greater Greensboro, and I have the honor of serving with Frank McCain of United Way as co-chairs of the Guilford Cares Task Force, advising the county on its virus relief nonprofit grant program. And Deborah Hooper, thank you so much for being a wonderful, loyal, and insightful committee member on that task force. I just want to mention this because there are some dollars available. This particular stream of funding is focused on food insecurities, medical access, supplies in response to COVID-19. And I just would like to point out, if any of you are either working with nonprofits as a board member, as a volunteer, or perhaps you are a staff person, just to point out that there are funds still available from the county. And our task force helps in reviewing those applications and making recommendations to the county. So I will put some information in the chat.
Thank you so much, Tara.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Hadassah, hi, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Tracy. So everyone, my name is Hadassah, and I'm a licensed agent with Liberty Mutual. I work with property and casualty, basically anything you own or love, we can help you in insuring that. What I'm also doing is, if you have questions about your current policy or even need to know what needs to be covered properly, I can help you in looking over it. And we have multiple options as well to help you find what best fits your needs. And so I'll put my contact information in the chat as well. And I'm also here in the local Greensboro office.
Thank you so much. Joyce from the chamber is on the line, and I've tapped Joyce to talk about One City, One Film.
Good deal. Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, we can. Good morning.
Good morning. We're excited about next week. The City of Greensboro Public Library and the Greensboro Chamber, we are partnering to bring to the community, the business community, the One City, One Film. We've asked the community to watch the movie, The Hate U Give, over the last few weeks and through this week. And then we're all going to get together next week to dialogue about the movie and the relevance of that movie to our community. We have 3 sessions, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, different times, so that people will be able to attend the dialogues. It's going to be facilitated by skilled facilitators. The conversations are going to be real, and respectful. And we look forward to everybody joining us.
Thank you, Joyce. We're really looking forward to those conversations next week. We'll get that link in the chat as well. Russ, over at A Legacy, thank you guys for being presenting sponsor of the Small Business Awards. We're looking forward to seeing Brian for the 5th year in a row as MC. Good morning.
Morning. Thanks for this great conversation there. It was very, very enlightening and good information. We, at A Legacy, we've got a lot going on. We underwent a core conversion that went live on Memorial Day, so a lot of improvement for the user experience, member experience there that's been going on over the last couple of months. We've begun the process of reopening our branches to walk-in traffic, which were closed through the through the early stages of the pandemic. Right now, the Battleground and Palladium branches are on the schedule of seeing seniors in at risk from 9 to 11, 11 to 1. We do a deep clean of the branch, and then from 1 to 4, everybody else is everybody's able to come in and for walk-in traffic. UNCG branch is still open for appointment only, but we do have those other 2 branches starting to get a little bit more open and a little bit more normal. And then also next month we are opening a branch out in Yadkinville, so that will be going out next month.
Cool. Thank you so much, Russ. Carly, hi.
Hey everybody, it's so good to see some familiar faces. Greetings from the Volunteer Center of the Triad. Just wanted to give a shout out actually to the Chamber for the feature on the podcast today. So check out Impact the Borough, episode 19, featuring the Volunteer Center, myself, and my Director of Volunteers, Hope Tyler, talking about volunteering during the pandemic. Our community has just been incredible with the amount of time that they've given back to help people, especially those in the most vulnerable populations. So thank you to the Chamber for that feature, and definitely go check it out. If you're interested in volunteering, even at home, check out our website, volunteercentertriad.org. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Carly. So excited about hearing the podcast today and how to volunteer right now. Announcement, we have a winner for our gift card, and we only have a phone number for this person, so this is always fun. So phone number 252-538-5952. Who is that? Are they still on the line? They may not be on the line, but if not, we'll call them and let them know that they've won a gift card. So very exciting. Titus wants to tell us a little bit about his music program. Titus, good morning.
Good morning. Happy to see everyone. I'm happy to be here. My name is Titus Gant. I'm an executive director of the Gant School of Music and Jazz. We're located right in Greensboro, and the mission of our organization is to provide quality instruments and quality music lessons to students who are underprivileged and maybe represented in different areas and aspects on the socioeconomic ladder, which was very informative presentation that we had earlier. It fits right in line with our organization. So definitely excited about what Greensboro is doing, and definitely excited about how we can help and push more people who can't afford a good instrument and can't afford quality lessons. Those students who I currently teach now as an educator, music educator in Greensboro, those students who need our help. And I'm so happy to hear that other like-minded individuals are looking forward to help those students as well. So it's right up my alley. So I'm glad to be here, and I'll post maybe I'll post my website information in the chat. And so if you need any more information about what we do and how we're currently reaching out to the community, you can definitely reach out. So thank you. Thank you, Tracy.
Awesome. Thank you, Titus. Question, if folks have very good quality instruments that they would like to donate, do you guys do that?
Definitely. They can contact and reach out to us, and we'll get back with them and how to donate to the organization. You know, right now we have COVID-19 happening, so cleaning is important, and we're able to clean the instrument and be able to make it suitable for a student to use. We're actually doing a giveaway right now for an instrument that was donated to us, so you can check that out on the site too. So
very cool. Thank you. I know some of us have former band students and have some great instruments just lying around the house. Mike Stepanoff, our reigning ambassador champion of scavenger hunts. How are you this morning?
Oh, really?
Oh, no, you're not. That's right. No, you're my trivia master.
Yep, yep.
My trivia master. That's Tom. Sorry.
Yeah. But I couldn't figure out how to get into the chat room. I wanted to thank David for a great informing presentation, and I had an idea for him. But years ago, I was in the apparel manufacturing industry, and we had plants in the eastern part of North Carolina and couldn't get labor that we needed trained. So rather than 5 manufacturers got together, rather than competing against each other, we decided to band together, offer a class at the local community college on basic job skills, and then worked with the individuals on you know, learning some of the machinery that we use too. And we paid, the 5 manufacturers paid for the class and guaranteed a position if somebody finished the class. So that's something that we could probably do in this community if we can get enough manufacturers or businesses together to support a program like that. But anyway, I am Mike Stepanoff with Edward Jones, a financial advisor for the last 18, 19, 20 years. I left manufacturing because manufacturing left this area. But anyway, I was fortunate enough to be hired by Edward Jones, and we work with individuals and small business on your financial plans, retirement plans, 401k plans, and so forth. But I just wanted to announce that recently by Forrester Research, we've been ranked #1 overall in customer service and clear communications among investment firms. This research by Forrester Research survey has been done for the last number of years, and this is the 5th year we ranked #1. We strive to keep deep personal relationships with clients. One of the things we do is we're trying to understand what is important to you, what are your goals, and then we build a program for you on your investments. And I didn't know how to get on the chat room, but if anybody would like to contact me, it's Mike.Stepanoff, STIPANOV at Edward Jones. And how do I get in the chat room? I see on my Zoom, I see everything. I see the participants, I see raise your hand, but I don't see a chat bar. Anybody got a response for me?
Right beside the participants button, there should be one that says chat.
Down at the bottom.
Not in my screen.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I got to figure that
you know
out.
what? That's going to be our next ambassador's lesson.
Do you
We're gonna
see the
figure that
3?
out.
Do you see the 3 dots that say more? Because that's what mine say. There's 3 little dots and they say more. And when I click on that, then I click on chat.
On the participants, I see 33 participants.
Yep.
And I see the mute and the video, but I don't see a 3-bar dot.
All right.
No.
Well, we're gonna fix that, Mike. We'll figure that out with you.
We'll get the chamber to help me figure that out.
We got that.
Yeah.
Well, we're right at 10 o'clock, so we're going to let everybody get out on time. It's so great to see you all. Again, check out that event calendar if you want to. You can see us pretty much every day. So we'd love to chat with you all, see you all. Have a great day. Have a great rest of the week. Thank you so much.